Yes, so in 2015, I had a client who owed me quite a bit of money, a considerably large invoice for my promotional products company. And I was having a lot of trouble getting paid. In fact, that was outstanding from before 15, but 15 led into where the stress, I started feeling the stress even more of not being paid. And a friend of mine who's a psychotherapist said I should find some things to do that are mindless, not a lot of thinking, and something new at the same time. And so I started searching for anything to do with my hands, jewelry making, the whole nine. And then I found, I actually did a jewelry class at Michael's and enjoyed that. And then I found Tandy Leather offered classes, which I decided to sign up for one of their classes to make a card wallet. And from there, I just was very taken with the entire process of creating something from absolutely nothing to something that you'll use every day, and it will outlast you as well. Some of the first things I made were leather cuffs, like leather bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually saw online that someone was going to the thrift store and buying old belts and making cuffs. And so I resorted to my closet and started cutting up my old belts to make cuffs. And each time I made one, I really made it for myself. But someone saw it and would say, "Oh, that's nice. Where do you get it?" And then I started selling things right off my hands. I mean, I would literally make something and not come home with it. And so I started with the cuffs, and then I went to wallets. And I'm a minimalist at heart, so I make items that are just, you carry what you need, what you absolutely have to carry, not 30, 40 cards in a wallet. So that's the direction that I headed into. So I expanded through demand. Friends would start asking me to make gifts for either a graduation, somebody got a new iPad and it needed a case to protect it. And then because I wanted to improve my skills, I'm self-taught, I started making things on my own that I thought people would like. And working with different materials and learning what's really good quality leather and what isn't. And so the entire learning process really helped me to branch out into other items. But the demand is what really took me to some of those things. Like you mentioned, the coasters. That was literally a request. And I went from there to making them different materials, not just the veg tan leather. And so my expansion really came from demand. The entrepreneurship is definitely in my DNA. It's what I was always taught. I was raised by my uncle, and I watched him operate several businesses, sometimes more than one at a time, and I worked in all of them. And he taught me that he literally said to me at age 11, when you grow up, you don't have to have a job, but you must have an income. Mm-hmm. And what I gathered from that was I could create my own destiny. I could make a way for myself other than depending on a paycheck. So I have not had a lot of jobs in my life. I've had several businesses. I failed at quite a few, and those were the ones that made me better at what I am doing now. So yes, entrepreneurship, and I love teaching it to others as well. Taking what I was taught as a child. My uncle had a furniture factory. I learned how to do that as well. And so taking what he said to me, you don't have to have a job, but you must have an income. I've always taken that every step of the way for me to make a way in whatever I wanted to do. So I grew up on the island of Antigua, and you pretty much have to make your own way in a lot of ways. I ran track. I was always an athlete. I ran track. I went from that to playing tennis, and from that to playing golf. And so I've played quite a few sports, but I played tennis and golf at a professional level. And during those times, I was still doing a business of some kind. I think growing up in the Caribbean, because we have to be so self-sufficient in a lot of ways, everything has to be imported. If it's not there, you have to find a way to create it. And so I definitely am happy that I went through that process. My uncle was the biggest influence, but my grandmother also had a very large influence on me because I was pretty much raised by both of them. My uncle left school when he was 13 years old to take care of his family, and my grandmother was one of those people that he had to take care of, took care of his mother. While he's taking care of her, I live there, so I get taken care of as well. So the influence definitely came from my uncle, but my grandmother was very influential. She taught me lessons that I still carry with me today. My uncle, I call his name regularly because everything I do today, everything I know, even the things that I don't do anymore, it's because of the lessons that he taught me. So 2021 is going to be a very different year for me because I spent the last 12, 14 months learning how to work with other materials like exotic, alligator, crocodile, things like that. And I am making a transition. I'm going to be doing some rebranding, and there's going to be some really, really nice items that I'm going to be producing in the next year. And I do believe that people are going to really, really enjoy seeing them and seeing the craft that goes into it. So, well, the advice, it would be more advice than anything else. And what I would say to anyone, working with your hands, in my mind, is probably the best thing that you could ever do in your life, because you're creating. Not only are you creating, you're creating something that is going to be here long after you're gone. In terms of the leatherwork, you're building and creating a legacy all at the same time. And patience is the biggest thing that you have to have in what we do. If you're not patient, you are going to make the worst mistakes, and you're going to be wasting material, and you're going to be going over and over and get frustrated. You have to be extremely patient. And whatever you're making, even if it's not going to be seen, that part of the product is not going to be seen, you should still put 100%, if not more, into what you're doing. So, ultimate goal for me is to have a facility where I can teach younger people to learn the craft, because it's a dying art, and unless you continue to teach it, it will die. And so I would like to teach younger people how to work with their hands within the leather industry, because there's so many aspects of that industry they could work in. You could specialize. I know that I have an affinity for kids who age out of foster care and have almost nowhere to go sometimes. If they could learn some of this at age 16, by the time they get to 18, they actually could name their own direction.
Right.
And so my ultimate goal is to get involved in that so that I can start doing internships and teaching them from 16 how to do this and be able to have an income of their own. So when they age out, they literally can say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. They can go and work with someone. They can go and work with a larger company, or we may be big enough at that time where we can just go ahead and hire them.